Hello and welcome. This is my cat Max, who has decided to sit in my lap probably for the remainder of this video. If you're new here, my name is Jessica. I own a small business called xoxo Designs, and I sell watercolor art prints, stickers, greeting cards. I've recently started painting on jean jackets. I make terracotta pots, glass paintings. I do a lot of things. I thought I would make this video just for somebody who doesn't know where to begin, if they have their first craft fair coming up, if you're thinking about doing craft fairs and don't know where to start, even if you've done like 1 or 2 craft fairs and you just want more information. I know that when I first looked into doing craft fairs, there's just so much information out there, and I kind of pulled from different social media outlets. You know, I watched many videos like this and they helped me a lot. So if I can pass my craft fair knowledge onto somebody else and help them be more successful, then so be it. This video is gonna be kind of like a craft fair 101, craft fair tips, you know, just where to find markets, how many products do you bring, what do you bring for a booth, just like a craft fair overview. So let's begin. So the first thing that I want to talk about is finding markets. Where do you find markets? Where do you look? I would say the most popular way to find markets these days is through social media, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, possibly TikTok. I don't know. I primarily use Instagram to find a lot of my events. I kind of just started saving market posts that are near me, and Instagram noticed that and they started pushing me market ads that are like around my area. So I use Instagram a lot. I know a lot of people that use like Facebook market groups. I personally don't really have, I mean, I have a Facebook account, but my Facebook account got hacked. I have one, but I honestly I don't really use it. But I know that that's a very popular way that people find them. There's also websites. So I have used Eventbrite, which I've actually found a few semi-local fairs that are around me through there, and then I also get emails through Zap. A lot of the times you'll find that as you do markets, the organizers of these markets, especially larger sized markets, will have more events in the same city or different cities. Personally, that's, besides like social media, that is like the primary source of how I find other markets. And then just other vendors at shows. I mean, you're sitting like 8 hours a day next to another vendor. Most of the time you'll like make conversations with them, and if you just ask them like what other markets they've done, I come to find that a lot of other vendors are willing to give information of like what markets they liked, what markets they didn't like, you know, etc. And so other vendors is definitely another way to find markets. So when you start to like deep dive into finding markets, you're gonna find that a lot of the markets, especially if they are larger markets, are gonna want you to apply months in advance. So say you want to do a December market, you're going to notice that those applications are going to come out during the summer months. If you want to do like a spring summer market, you probably should start applying now, just because. Okay. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. I knew that was going to happen too. So as I was saying, is if you're looking at doing like a summer market, you're really going to want to start applying now, because I feel like a lot of those markets, especially if it's a larger market, close their application process probably sometime in March, sometimes February. If it's a smaller market, I feel like the application process is open a little longer. Like if it's a local market, depends on how large the market is, how popular the market is. There's a whole range of factors, but just keep in mind that especially holiday markets, you're going to want to apply and start looking for those during the summer months. The other piece of advice that I have is that once you're accepted to a market and you get the confirmation email, start prepping as soon as possible. I try to do this and I always somehow end up going to bed at like 2 a.m. the night before because I thought I did everything and then I didn't do everything. But it will make your life so much easier if you can, to start to prep weeks before. You're gonna be less stressed the days leading up to the market. You're less likely probably to forget something. That is just one piece of advice that I probably need to follow myself because I'm getting better. But when I first started markets, I really wasn't that good at it. The next thing is just your booth. Like, what do you bring? If it is an outdoor event, you are probably going to need to buy a canopy. A lot of events that I've done in the past don't necessarily care what canopy color you use, but I have run into a specific events, I would say like a handful, that they require just a plain white canopy. So make sure that you do your research before diving into buying like a bright pink canopy, because some of those events you might be restricted in doing that, and then you'll have to buy like another canopy for it. If you can, I would highly suggest in investing in a really nice canopy that's going to last you a while. When I first started doing markets, because the expenses that pile up, I just ended up honestly buying the cheapest one that I could find on Amazon, and it was fine. But then I encountered a windy San Francisco day and it was not good. My canopy was just, it wasn't made well. It was light. It would just pick up and like try to fly into my neighbor. I didn't have enough tent weights. It was not good. And so after that particular fair, I invested in a good canopy. I am so happy that I ended up spending the money on this canopy because it has made my market days a lot easier. It's made really, really well. It has some weight to it, which is nice. And then for the size of the canopy, of like what size canopy do you bring, I feel like the standard size that is an outside booth is a 10 foot by 10 foot. Or if you want to do a double booth, it's like a 10 by 20. So you're going to want a 10 foot by 10 foot canopy. You're going to want to bring tent weights. I highly recommend bringing more tent weights than you anticipate, because you cannot predict the weather and the wind is not your friend. Like, the last thing that you want to do is to hold your tent for the entirety of the market, which I've done, or have your tent like blow away into your neighbors, or just something. So you want to bring good tent weights. I started out buying probably the cheapest tent weights that I could find. I really wish when I started that I invested in good sandbags. Right now I use sandbags that I put rocks in, or I'll put like actual sand in, and it has a zipper on the top of it. It's not Velcro, so I don't have to worry about the spillage as much. And then it has Velcro that you can put around each leg, so they're separate sandbags for each leg, and it's worked great. I think I bought the first one during the summer, and I haven't had to replace them at all. The next thing that you want to have is tables. I feel like the standard table size is an 8-foot table, a 6-foot table, and a 4-foot table. They might have like 2-foot tables, but I think all around those are the standard sizes, and you're going to want some sort of tablecloth to cover those tables. You don't necessarily need all 3 sizes. I do have all 3 sizes, but I started out with just an 8-foot table and a 6-foot table, I believe. And then as I started bringing more products, I ended up adding a 4-foot table. So you don't need all to begin with. It would probably be nice just because you can play with the layout of your booth setup, but I would say at least make sure that you have an 8-foot table in either a 6 or a 4. And then you're going to want displays for your products. I personally just get a lot of my displays off of Amazon. I mean, I've also like found displays at thrift stores. I found some things at like an antique store. You don't really need to splurge on displays from the beginning. If you want to, great. I did not, and I'm still using the same ones that I think I've had for probably since my first market. I've changed a few things, you know, just as my inventory grew, but it's not necessary. The one thing that I wish that I did when I first started doing like larger shows is to put more thought in the display that I'm using. Like, for instance, I sell art prints, and I sell different variations of art prints. I ended up buying a magazine rack off of Amazon, and I used that, but I just kind of like bought that on a whim because I didn't know what to do. And I wish that I put just more thought into the fact that I'm planning on growing my print collection, and the magazine rack that I had at the time just wasn't big enough. I mean, it worked. I still have it, but I think I used that magazine rack for like the first 2 craft shows, and then I ended up buying another, like a larger magazine rack that I probably used for like 1 show, and then I finally figured a way to display my prints that I used like to this day. So I have a grid wall to display my prints, and I really wish that I would have started out doing that because it would have saved me a lot of money. You're also going to want to have some sort of banner that has your logo on it, and if you can, what you sell, just so people can do like a brand recognition and they, you know, they'll recognize your brand. It's also a way to like bring people in. I had a table banner and I still use it. And then it wasn't until recently, like within the past few months, I think I bought it in January, that I ended up doing a larger banner that I'm going to attach to the back of my canopy. So I wouldn't say that it's both of them are necessary, but I would definitely suggest having one of them. If I were to choose which one, I would say probably something that hangs. So people can, like, when they're walking in their booth, they can automatically see it. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention, backtracking onto the whole tent weights, you're going to want to make sure that you have some sort of weight for your displays so they don't blow away. So if you can, just find a way to anchor those down. I wouldn't say it's like necessary, but I highly, highly, highly recommend. You're also going to want, I wouldn't say necessarily need, but it's going to be very helpful, is some sort of wagon to carry your things. A lot of the craft fairs that I've done, I've luckily been able to pull my car up, but there have been a select few that you need to like park and then walk to your destination. Just, I feel like with craft fairs you have so much stuff, and to have something that you can pile it into and then wheel it to your destination is very, very helpful. Because otherwise you're just taking like bin by bin to the place where you're going, and who knows like how much of a walk that is. So I highly, 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 highly suggest having some sort of wagon to help you with that. The other things that I would say you probably should have are some sort of business card that you can give to people, bags depending on what size product you have. Just if people want a bag, you can put it in a bag for them. A card reader. I personally use Square, but I know Shopify, if you have a Shopify website, like they have a specific card reader. I know that Wix has a specific card reader, which I plan on purchasing soon. And it makes it a lot easier, because if you have an online shop and you buy a card reader that's specific to that website, then it takes the inventory from your website. It keeps track of it. So you don't have to count inventory before and after, and then, you know, after you've done that, then you have to go and you have to adjust your inventory on your website. It makes it a lot easier. And then you're also going to want cash and something to put the cash in. I usually keep like $200, and then I kind of divide that up. I usually have a lot of 1s, 5s, and 10s, and I'll have like 2 20s. Just for what I sell, I have a lot of like $3 things, $5 things, so I don't have a lot of like large priced items. So a lot of people end up handing me 5s or 1s. Yeah, I haven't had a problem running out of cash. So you're also going to want to bring signage. I feel like signage is so important, and I feel like it's one of those things that gets overlooked. It's like a last minute thing that people think about. You're going to want to make sure that you have large, I mean like semi-large, clear signage. If somebody is coming up to your booth, they're looking at a product, they can clearly see what the product is and how much it is. I find that it's very helpful, especially if people are more introverted and they don't necessarily want to ask how much everything is. They can see it from like as they're walking by their booth, they can look and see it, so they don't have to like come into your booth. If you put, you know, some effort into thinking about your signage, it's gonna benefit you in the long run. And then obviously you're gonna want to bring your products. How much product should you bring? I honestly, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer, but this is still something that I struggle with, and I never think that I have enough. So I guess I'll just give you an example of like what I bring. If I'm doing a art and wine festival that is a 2-day long, 8-hour a day festival, as far as like how many designs I bring, I definitely didn't start out with the amount of designs that I have now, but currently I think I have like 10 to 15 different designs, give or take. I say that I would bring, for my art prints, I have like 3 to 5 of each design. For my stickers, I bring between 10 and 15. Greeting cards, I bring 10 of each, unless I know that it's a really big seller. For my coasters, it really depends on how much inventory I have at that minute, but I'll try to bring like 2 sets of each design. Again, for like my terracotta pots and glass paintings, sometimes I only have 1 of each. It really depends. And then as you're doing more and more markets, you kind of learn like what's popular, and that helps you gauge of how many you should bring of each design, because you kind of know like what sells and what doesn't sell. And then I think the final thing that I want to talk about is, what do you expect the day of the market? I feel like it's very common, whether or not it's a small or large market, for the organizers of the market to send out an email like a week or 2 prior to the market date. Generally in this email, they're gonna have where your booth is. They'll probably have like a map of the event. Maybe they'll have like parking and just like basic information about the event, like when you're gonna show up, how much time you have to show up, just, you know, little things like that. I feel like most markets that I've done, whether inside or outside, generally have like a 2-hour window for when you can set up. Some inside festivals will let you come the night before to set up, which is very, very helpful. If you have the opportunity to do that, I highly suggest doing that, because it will make your market day less stressful. So if it's a 2-day festival and it's outside, I would suggest to get 4 canopy walls that you can like zip together to put on your canopy for when you leave that first night. I would say for the most part, I'll leave my displays in my booth, but I personally, just because I make everything by hand, is I will take my inventory down and I will take it with me. Because I don't necessarily feel comfortable leaving it. There are fairs that I have, like if it's an inside fair, I'll leave my inventory out and I will have just like a tablecloth to put over my tables. But it's really just your preference, what you feel comfortable doing. But I would say a lot of just doing like art and wine festivals, a lot of people just leave everything in their canopy and they just put their canopy walls up and leave. Like if you're comfortable doing that, more power to you. Craft fairs are kind of one of those things that you kind of learn as you go. First year that I started applying to craft fairs, I applied to every fair that I could, whether it was big or small. And by doing that, I was able to kind of like weed out the ones that I don't necessarily want to do, or I just like didn't make that much profit doing. You don't know that until you try doing them. Unfortunately, I feel like craft markets are very much trial error kind of thing. And I found that by doing other markets, I was able to look at other people's displays and kind of, oh, you know what? Speaking of displays, one thing that I did forget to mention is that having levels on your table with your different products is very helpful. I feel like I personally use, you know, those like crates from Michael's or just any craft store, like the wooden crates. I use those. I'll put like 3 out and then I'll put product on the top and then I'll put product on the bottom. It's a good way to just, you know, have different eye levels, and it's also a way to add more space to your table. Another thing, as I'm like saying things I'm like remembering, is another thing is you don't want to have your tables be too cluttered. I feel like it just looks chaotic and it kind of brings like a chaotic kind of energy. I mean, you can have like a lot of stuff, but just, you know, space it. Just space it nice. Okay, I think that's it. I'm pretty sure this video is long enough. Hopefully this video helped you out. I usually don't do these types of videos, but if you guys like these types of videos, let me know and I'll try to think of different like market tips ideas that I can do. I do a lot of like studio vlogs, and when I have a market, I'll try to film like a week prior to the market. So I do a lot of things like that. So if you're interested in that, I would love for you to subscribe and we can be friends. And with that, I'm actually going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!